we're trying to understand what's moving the electorate. And one thing we saw last month is Generation Z voters moving away from Joe Biden. We wanted to understand that a little bit more, so we asked specifically about student loans, which of course benefit a number of generations, but the idea here is that Biden really is trying to reach young people with this, and young people aren't very impressed. 43% said that, which is a priority, said that President Biden should be doing more on student loans, but also there's just sort of a messaging failure here that what he has done, really younger voters say they haven't heard much about. And so he's really struggling to have his policies, which he thinks benefits some of these constituencies, transfer into support in the polls.
So, Gregory, I mean, did you get a sense of why else, beyond the messaging, it just wasn't getting through to Gen Z? That the debt, it seems like Biden is trying to appeal, but the message is just simply not getting through.
Yeah, this is a complaint that Democrats always have, is that they feel like, boy, our policies would be really popular if people just knew about them. And look, President Biden is arguably, and I think we can say this from just a historical fact, that he's arguably one of the most successful legislative presidents of the last 50, 60 years. You'd have to go back to Lyndon Johnson to see the sweep of legislation passed under a president. And yet, if you poll on the Inflation Reduction Act or the Infrastructure Bill or the Chips and Science Act or any of the other bills that President Biden has signed into law, you really don't get a whole lot of salience out there. People just aren't aware of them. And that's one of the big challenges for President Biden, also on his executive actions, the student loan actions. Remember, he tried to cancel a lot more in student loans. The Supreme Court told him he could not. He's had to pare that back a little bit with a more modest range of actions. And that might be also what some of these voters are reacting to, is that they're just not impressed with the scope of the student loan relief.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable given where we are with the economy and given what we know that the Biden administration has done and has attempted to do. So I do wonder if it all does come down to messaging, as you mentioned, Gregory. I'm also wondering, given that we're unemployment's at 3.7%, we've got the stock market back close to record highs at this point. Inflation is coming down. What are the conversations that are happening on President Biden at the White House for President Biden and for his reelection team at campaign headquarters about how to change this messaging and really express the successes of the Biden administration as they see them to these voters in swing states, so they do have a chance at winning reelection?
They understand absolutely that is the challenge in front of them, and they have the work cut out for them. The perceptions of the economy are lagging. And one thing that we're watching very closely there is that when we ask these swing state voters what they think about the national economy, 3/4 of them say it's bad. They say the national economy is heading in the wrong direction. But when we ask them about their local economy, about their state economy, about half say that it's good. And so there's a disconnect there. The economy that people are experiencing in their everyday lives, they say is not so bad. It's the national economy that they're worried about. And of course, inflation is a national issue. Federal spending is a national issue. That might be what they're responding to. But the other thing that President Biden needs to do is to begin to make the contrast. And we're already seeing him do that. You'll hear him say very often, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And of course, the alternative at this point is former President Donald Trump. And so the job of the president is to remind people where we were in the pandemic 4 years ago, to remind people why they voted against Trump in the first place, and hope that some of those voters who are lukewarm on the current president will come back to the Democratic fold.